Now, why did I do that? Well, I did it because I wanted to make sure that we saw whether or not there would be any residual effects from Brianna Stewart coming out holding a sign.
The statement was chilling in its prescience. I did it because I wanted to make sure that we saw whether or not there would be any residual effects from Brianna Stewart coming out holding a sign saying, "Abolish ICE." Those weren't the words of a surprised observer. They were the calculated analysis of someone who understood the precise mechanics of a looming catastrophe. He waited for Monday's Nielsen ratings like a doctor awaiting a terminal diagnosis, knowing the numbers would confirm a systemic collapse. Brianna Stewart's on-court protest wasn't merely a controversial moment in sports. It was the lit match tossed into a room already saturated with the fumes of failure. It ignited a chain reaction that exposed not just a public relations crisis, but an existential one. The ratings that followed were more than bad. They were a hollowing out, a numeric confirmation that Unrivaled, the women's 3-on-3 league touted as the future and a potent lever for WNBA players, was operating in a...
Well, there was. But I think there was another indictment of this league as well. Number one, this is the worst I've ever seen their ratings. Monday's ratings, and we'll get there. We're going to do Friday, Saturday, and Monday. But it also shows you how few people outside of, if I'm just being real, some activist fans are watching.
Vacuum, speaking to an audience that had largely already left the building. The data that landed was worse than the most pessimistic predictions. "This is the worst I've ever seen their ratings," the analysis began. A stark pronouncement considering the league's brief and already tumultuous history. But it also shows you how few people outside of, if I'm just being real, some activist fans are watching this league. That's the indictment right there. This is the core of the tragedy. When your viewership hits a historic nadir and the ensuing silence is deafening because you had so few viewers to lose in the first place, you're not weathering a storm. You're revealing that you were never...
Now, in case you don't remember, this was just 7 days ago. All right, a 48% increase over 2025. $40 million in league revenue in its second season. And I was like, interesting. And what made that interesting is, well, the media rights deal from TNT is 16.667.
Built on solid ground. The controversy didn't destroy the league. It merely turned on the lights, showing an empty arena. Unrivaled had just posted ratings so catastrophically low that executives at TNT, which had signed a multi-million-dollar media rights deal, were likely convening emergency meetings, grappling with the cold reality of a disastrous investment. But to comprehend the sheer depth of this plummet, we must first rewind to the narrative Unrivaled was projecting just 1 week prior to the implosion. 7 days. That's all that separated triumph from tragedy in the league's own storytelling. The claim was bold and meticulously packaged. A 48% increase in revenue over 2025.
And this $40 million revenue is not basketball generated. This is investor generated. Well, at some point, investors want returns. They want to see what was generated. So let's just jump into this. This is Friday, okay? Last Friday. This is prior to Brianna Stewart. Right here, the Phantom versus Vinyl, TNT, did 30,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 ad demographic. The Mist and Rose, 30,000 viewers in the ad demographic. That same game, I guess, was the Phantom Vinyl game, was simulcast on True TV, did another 20,000 viewers. Look at these ranks as far as actual...
Projecting to $40 million in total league revenue for its second season. On the surface, these figures were meant to project vitality, growth, and a winning bet. And I was like, interesting, the analyst noted. the skepticism palpable. That interest turned to forensic scrutiny when the structure of that $40 million was examined. The TNT media rights deal, a cornerstone of the league's legitimacy, accounts for $16.667 million of that total. This is a critical detail. It means that over 40% of the league's entire claimed revenue comes from a single television contract, not from the organic engine of sports ticket sales, merchandise, and advertising driven by passionate fans. Furthermore, this deal is a 6-year contract with a 3-year option for the network, a clause that now hangs over Unrivaled like a guillotine. TNT can walk away after 2027, or, as clauses often allow, renegotiate or exit sooner if certain performance metrics like abysmal ratings are not met. This context transforms the boastful revenue number. When the WNBA, the established league Unrivaled, was meant to pressure recently signed media rights deals worth over $200 million annually, Unrivaled's $16 million total deal is thrown into harsh relief. This isn't a competitive media rights agreement. It's a speculative grant, a venture capital bet placed on a...
Let me take you back over the weekend. Right, Brianna Stewart explains her Abolish ICE sign. She came out holding this sign right here, Abolish ICE. I made a video on that, and I triggered some of the retards that were subscribed to this channel, and I waved at them as they went right off into the sunset. The next day I replaced every one of them with a follow-up video. All those subs came back. Not those people, but, you know, people with common sense came back. Blew right past them. So I got them back, plus some. And Brianna Stewart, of course, run her mouth with this, Abolish ICE, which means having policies to uplift families and communities instead of fueling fear and violence.
Concept rather than a proven product. The remaining $23 plus million of that $40 million, as the analysis bluntly put it, this is investor generated. Well, at some point, investors want returns. They want to see what was generated. That $40 million isn't a measure of commercial success. It's a measure of cash burn, of money injected to keep the experiment alive in the hope that an audience would materialize. With that financial backdrop established, the stage was set for a ratings autopsy. The weekend of January 31st to February 3rd serves as a brutal case study in audience erosion. To understand the collapse, we must start in the moments before the catalyst. Before Brianna Stewart picked up her sign, Unrivaled was already whispering, not shouting. The games aired on Friday night provided the baseline, the healthy numbers against which the coming drop would be measured. They revealed a league already in critical condition. Phantom versus Vinyl, TNT. 30,000 viewers in the coveted 18 to 49 advertising demographic. The Mist versus Rose, TNT. 30,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demographic. Phantom versus Vinyl simulcast, True TV. An additional 20,000 viewers in the demo. For those unfamiliar...
Well, it got worse on Monday. This is Monday's ratings right here. The Lunar Owls versus the Hive had 50,000 viewers. Wow, that's kind of a miracle, frankly. That's kind of a miracle. But their total viewership still wasn't good. 130th in the total rank. This was on TNT, folks. And then you got down to the Laces versus the Breeze. This was on TNT, not on True TV. It registered an NA. You see this, a .02 or below. Or below. Total rank, NA. Didn't even rank. Didn't even rank on the cable ratings, total viewers. Didn't show up.
Familiar with cable ratings, total viewership is typically estimated at roughly 4 times the demographic number. Thus, these games were pulling approximately 120,000 to 200,000 total viewers on a good night. However, The more telling metric was their ranking among all cable programming for that night. They placed 131st, 125th, and a dismal 229th overall. This means that on a typical Friday night of cable television, filled with reruns, news commentary, and niche programming, Unrivaled games were being outwatched by a significant margin. This was the league's stable state. The next night, the subtle decay continued before any major controversy had broken. Lunar Owls versus Breeze. 30,000 inches the demo, ranking 143rd overall. Laces versus Vinyl. 20,000 inches the demo, ranking 167th overall. The total viewership for some games was now potentially dipping below 100,000. The trend line was pointing down, and the league was operating on the fringes of cable relevance. This was the patient weakening before the fever spiked. Then came the moment that shifted the narrative from poor performance to public crisis. During warm-ups for her game, Brianna Stewart, one of the league's most recognizable stars, walked onto the court holding a sign that read, "Abolish ICE." Her subsequent explanation framed it as a stand for policies to uplift families and communities instead of fueling fear and violence. Human lives are at stake. The action itself was guaranteed to be polarizing, but its timing and context made it particularly volatile. It occurred just days after the murder trial of Laken Riley concluded. Riley, a 22-year-old nursing student at the University of Georgia, was killed in February 2024, and her alleged murderer was an illegal immigrant. The case had become a fiercely debated national flashpoint in the immigration discussion. Stewart's statement, calling for the abolition of the agency responsible for immigration enforcement, without any acknowledgement of a victim whose death was central to the opposing side's argument, was seen by many as tone-deaf and politically charged at its most confrontational. The backlash was swift and intense, erupting across social media and sports commentary platforms. But crucially, for Unrivaled, the backlash came from both the broader public and segments of its own fragile core audience. The league had positioned itself as a pure basketball alternative. For fans who had tuned in for sport, the sudden, stark political intrusion felt like a breach of contract. The incident laid bare a fundamental tension. Can a league with minuscule viewership afford to alienate any segment of its audience, especially when that alienation is over non-basketball issues? This brings us to the Monday night ratings, the data point the analyst had ominously awaited. This was the first full slate of games after the protest, the true measure of its residual effect. Game 1. Lunar Owls versus the Hive, TNT. This game recorded 50,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demo. On the surface, an increase. Wow, that's kind of a miracle, frankly, the analysis noted with sardonic surprise. But the miracle was illusory. Despite the demo number, its total ranking was 130th, still abysmal. Its total viewership, likely around 200,000, was a rounding error in TNT's primetime lineup, a slot once home to NBA games that drew millions. Game 2, Laces versus Breeze, TNT. Here is where the numbers transitioned from bad to existential. The game posted an NA rating, a null value. In Nielsen terminology, NA means the rating was 0.02% or below. The viewership was so infinitesimally small that it failed to register on the cable rankings altogether. It did not rank. It did not exist in the quantitative universe of televised entertainment. Let that sink in. A professional sports league with a national television contract on a major cable sports network aired a game that functionally had no measurable audience. This isn't a failure to grow. It's a failure to exist in the media landscape. The protest didn't just cause a boycott. It revealed that the connection between the league and its audience was so tenuous that a significant portion could vanish without making a statistical dent in the normal noise of viewer behavior. The league was so small that part of it could disappear into a black hole of anonymity. The Breanna Stewart incident was not the cause of Unrivaled's problems. It was the stress test that revealed every pre-existing crack in the foundation. The league is grappling with a confluence of structural issues that now seem insurmountable. 1. The vanishing leverage and the WNBA paradox. Unrivaled was conceived, in part, as a strategic tool. During WNBA collective bargaining agreement, CBA negotiations. It offered players an alternative. The threat was implicit. If the WNBA didn't meet our demands for higher revenue sharing and salaries, we have another league where we can play, make money, and build our brands. This leverage was a key part of its value proposition to the players. Now, with ratings collapsing, that leverage has evaporated. How can you threaten to walk away to a league that can't draw 50,000 viewers on TNT? The WNBA's own new media deal, worth billions, only heightens the disparity. Unrivaled is no longer a credible alternative. Its failure strengthens the WNBA's hand at the bargaining table, making players more dependent on the established league they were trying to pressure. 2. The talent drain and the novelty curse. In its inaugural season, Unrivaled boasted exciting names like Angel Reese and Sabrina Ionescu. Their participation drove initial curiosity. In Season 2, both opted out, Reese to focus on business ventures, Ionescu simply choosing not to return. The loss of 2 top draws before the season began was a silent alarm. It signaled that for the very stars it was meant to empower, the league might not be worth the commitment, whether due to financial, logistical, or professional reasons. Furthermore, the curiosity factor that fueled initial viewership in year 1 has expired. The format is no longer new. Those who tuned in once and were underwhelmed had no reason to return. A startup league must convert curiosity into habit, and Unrivaled has failed to do so. 3. The unsustainable financial model. The much-touted $40 million revenue figure, when held against the costs, depicts a money furnace. Consider the expenses: salaries for 30-plus players across 6 teams, long-term facility rental in Miami, high-end production costs for every broadcast, league operations, marketing, travel, and accommodation. The TNT money covers a significant chunk, but the rest is reliant on investor patience. Investors fund growth trajectories, not death spirals. When ratings drop 70% year over year and games don't register, they are not seeing a return on investment. They are witnessing the evaporation of their capital. 4. The precarious media partnership. TNT's parent company, Warner Bros. Discovery, is itself in a state of corporate flux, with discussions of mergers or sales frequently circulating. Corporate upheaval leads to portfolio review. Under new ownership or a cost-cutting regime, a $16 million contract for programming that delivers NA ratings is the very definition of low-hanging fruit for cancellation. The 3-year option TNT holds is no longer a guarantee. It is a looming expiration date that may be accelerated. 5. The small pond illusion. Perhaps the most damning revelation of the protest fallout is the microscopic size of Unrivaled's actual active fan base. The backlash to Stewart's sign was loud and widespread across the internet, yet the subsequent ratings drop was only in the tens of thousands of viewers. In a major sports league, such a controversy might cost millions of viewers. The fact that Unrivaled's loss was so small numerically proves the audience was already tiny. The league wasn't a vibrant ecosystem, it was a small, fragile pond, and the protest merely caused a minor ripple in an already still body of water. The controversy didn't kill the league, it provided an accurate census. Given these structural faults, a timeline of reckoning now seems inevitable. March 2025. TNT will undoubtedly conduct a severe internal review. While they may not trigger a full exit clause immediately, the groundwork for a renegotiation or a non-renewal announcement will be laid. The $16 million will be scrutinized as a sunk cost. Summer 2025. WNBA CBA negotiations will conclude. Unrivaled's collapse will fundamentally weaken the Players Association's position. The Unrivaled option will be seen as a phantom, removing a key piece of leverage from the talks. January 2026. The scheduled tip-off for Unrivaled's 3rd season. Barring a miraculous and sustained turnaround in viewership, a near impossibility, given the trends this season may never materialize. Investors will be unwilling to fund another round, and without investor cash to supplement the likely diminished or vanished TNT money, the league cannot operate. The profound tragedy in this story is that the core idea had merit. The 3-on-3 format is fast-paced and engaging. The production values are high. The concept of providing women's basketball players with more earning power and year-round visibility is laudable, but the execution was fatally flawed. The league attempted to skip steps, using investor and media money to create a facade of major league status before cultivating a major league audience. It placed its players in a high-pressure, high-visibility environment where a single political statement could topple the entire enterprise, because the enterprise had no depth of support to absorb any shock. In the end, Unrivaled stands as a stark cautionary tale in the rapid evolution of sports media. It demonstrates that capital and cable deals cannot manufacture cultural relevance. A league must be built community by community, fan by fan, creating a product that people seek out for the love of the game itself. By failing to first secure that foundational audience, by prioritizing political messaging over basketball purity for its handful of viewers, and by mistaking venture capital enthusiasm for organic demand, Unrivaled engineered its own crisis. Brianna Stewart's sign didn't destroy the league. It simply held up a mirror, and the reflection showed a league that was already, for all intents and purposes, not really there. The question is no longer about recovery, but about how long the stakeholders are willing to fund the elaborate performance of a league playing to an empty house. The final buzzer on this experiment may not have sounded, but the outcome is no longer in doubt.